There is a truth most people spend their lives avoiding. Your life is not the way it is because of luck, not because of your past, not because of other people. It is the way it is because of your mind. That realization is uncomfortable because it removes excuses, it removes blame, it forces responsibility. Ancient Stoic like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca reminded themselves that you have power over your mind, not outside events. If you understand this, everything changes. If you want to fix your life, you must first fix your mind. If you want more Stoic wisdom that strengthens your mindset, subscribe to the channel. Because everything begins there. Let's begin. 1. Your mind is either working for you or against you. There is no middle ground when it comes to your mind. It is not neutral. It is not passive. It is active, constantly shaping your perception, constantly influencing your actions, constantly guiding your life. The question is not whether your mind is powerful. The question is whether that power is working for you or against you. Most people never ask this question. They simply follow their thoughts without examining them, without questioning them, without realizing how much influence they have. A single thought can change your entire day. A negative thought can create doubt. Doubt creates hesitation. Hesitation delays action, and delayed action creates missed opportunities. This is how small thoughts create large consequences. But it works the other way too. A clear thought creates direction. Direction creates action. Action creates progress. And progress builds confidence. This is the chain. This is how your mind shapes your life. The Stoics understood that the mind must be trained, not ignored, not followed blindly, but trained, just like the body, just like a skill, because without training, the mind becomes reactive. It exaggerates problems, it creates fear, it assumes the worst. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself constantly, not because he lacked discipline, but because he understood the mind drifts. It needs guidance, it needs correction, it needs awareness. A strong person develops this awareness. They begin to notice their thoughts, not occasionally, but consistently. They observe patterns. They recognize negative cycles. They see how certain thoughts repeat. And once they see them, they begin to question them. Is this thought useful? Is it helping me grow? Is it moving me forward? If the answer is no, they do not follow it. They redirect, they replace, they choose a better perspective. This is where control begins. Not in eliminating negative thoughts completely, but in refusing to be controlled by them. The Stoic teacher Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Two people can experience the same situation. One feels defeated, the other feels challenged. The difference is not the situation, it is the thinking. This is why your mind matters more than anything else. Because your thinking shapes your reality, and your reality shapes your actions. Over time, trained thinking creates stability. You stop reacting emotionally to everything. You stop assuming the worst. You stop overthinking every situation. Instead, you become calm, focused, intentional. And when your mind reaches that state, your life begins to reflect it. You act with clarity. You make better decisions. You respond instead of react. And those small changes create powerful results. A mentally strong person is not someone without negative thoughts. It is someone who knows how to manage them, guide them, control them. And that is what separates growth from stagnation. If this message is making you more aware of your thinking, if it is helping you recognize patterns you once ignored, subscribe to the channel, Because mastering your mind is the first step to fixing your life, and once your mind begins to work for you, everything else starts to change. 2. Discipline over motivation. There is a lie that keeps most people stuck, a quiet belief that sounds harmless, but slowly destroys progress. The belief that you need to feel motivated before you act, that you need the right energy, the right mood, the right moment before you begin. But that moment is unreliable. It appears without warning and disappears just as quickly. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. The Stoics rejected this completely. They understood that waiting to feel ready is a form of delay, and delay is the enemy of growth. A strong person does not wait for motivation. They rely on discipline. Discipline is not emotional. It is not based on how you feel. It is based on what you decide. A decision to act, a decision to continue, a decision to stay consistent. Even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is inconvenient, even when you would rather do something else. This is what separates progress from stagnation. Because action does not come from feeling, it comes from commitment. The philosopher Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We imagine the effort will be too much. We imagine the task will be too difficult. We imagine the discomfort will be overwhelming. But when we act, we realize it was not as difficult as we thought. This is the power of discipline. It cuts through hesitation. It ignores excuses. It creates movement, and movement is what creates change. Each time you act without waiting, you strengthen yourself. You prove that your actions are not controlled by your emotions. You build confidence, real confidence, not based on outcomes, but based on your ability to act regardless of how you feel. Over time, something begins to change. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop delaying. You stop waiting. You simply act. And that consistency creates results. A mentally strong person understands this. They know that motivation is temporary. But discipline is permanent. If you rely on motivation, you will start and stop. If you rely on discipline, you will continue. And continuation is what transforms your life. If this message is pushing you to stop waiting and start acting, subscribe to the channel, because discipline is the foundation of everything you want to build. 3. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort feels harmless. It feels safe. It feels deserved. After a long day, comfort invites you to relax, to avoid effort, to choose what is easy. And in small amounts, comfort is not a problem. But when comfort becomes your default, it becomes a trap, because everything that improves your life exists outside of it. Growth requires effort. Discipline requires consistency. Change requires discomfort. The Stoics understood this clearly. They did not seek comfort. They trained themselves to handle difficulty, because they knew something most people avoid. Comfort keeps you the same. Discomfort changes you. Each time you choose comfort over effort, you reinforce stagnation. Each time you choose discomfort, you create growth. This is the trade, and it is unavoidable. You cannot improve your life while avoiding what is difficult. The teacher Epictetus taught that difficulty is what reveals character. It shows you who you are, not when things are easy, but when they are hard. A strong person does not run from discomfort, they move toward it, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand its value. Discomfort is a signal that you are pushing your limits, a signal that you are growing. At first, discomfort feels overwhelming. It feels unfamiliar. It creates resistance. But with repetition, something changes. It becomes manageable, then familiar, then normal. And once it becomes normal, it loses its power over you. This is how strength is built, not through comfort, but through repeated exposure to challenge. A mentally strong person rewires their relationship with discomfort. They stop seeing it as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to use. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to grow, to improve, to become stronger. And over time, this creates confidence, because you know you can handle difficulty, you know you can continue, you know you can adapt. And that confidence removes fear. When fear is reduced, action increases, and when action increases, results follow. If this message is pushing you to step outside your comfort zone, if it is encouraging you to face what you have been avoiding, subscribe to the channel, because growth begins the moment you stop choosing what is easy. 4. You are wasting time more than you realize. There is something about time that makes it easy to ignore. It feels abundant, endless, always available, until one day it doesn't. You look back, and you realize how much of it is gone, not because you chose to waste it, but because you didn't notice it slipping away. Days filled with distractions, moments lost to hesitation, opportunities delayed by overthinking. This is how time disappears, quietly, without warning. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw time as the most valuable resource, more valuable than money, more valuable than status, because once time is gone, it cannot be replaced. The philosopher Seneca warned that people are protective of their possessions, but careless with their time. They allow others to take it. They give it away to distractions. They spend it without awareness. And because of that, they lose control of their lives. A strong person sees time differently. They become aware, not in a stressful way, but in an intentional way. They begin to notice how they spend their hours, what they give their attention to, what they allow into their day, because they understand something simple. Your life is made of your time. If your time is scattered, your life feels scattered. If your time is focused, your life becomes focused. This is where change begins. Not with massive action, but with awareness of how you spend your time. And once you see it clearly, you begin to adjust. You remove what wastes it. You reduce what distracts you. You prioritize what matters. And slowly, something changes. You feel more in control, more intentional, more aligned. Because your time is no longer being lost. It is being used. A mentally strong person does not treat time casually. They treat it carefully, because they know that every moment is an opportunity to improve, to act, to move forward, or to remain the same. If this message is making you more aware of how you spend your time, if it is pushing you to become more intentional, subscribe to the channel, because the way you use your time determines the life you build. 5. Stop waiting and start acting. Waiting feels safe. It gives the illusion that you are preparing, that you are thinking things through, that you are being careful. But often, waiting is just avoidance. Avoidance of effort, avoidance of discomfort, avoidance of uncertainty. Most people are waiting for something, the right time, the right mood, the right opportunity. But those conditions rarely appear. And while they wait, time passes, opportunities disappear, progress is delayed. The Stoics believed in action, not reckless action, but consistent, intentional action, because action creates clarity. When you think too much, everything feels complicated. When you act, things become clear. You learn, you adjust, you improve. This is how progress is made, not through endless planning, but through movement. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to stop debating what a good person should be and simply be one. That is the shift, from thinking to doing, from waiting to acting. A strong person does not need perfect conditions. They act in imperfect ones. They start even when they feel uncertain. They continue even when it feels difficult. Because they understand something important. Action builds confidence, not the other way around. Each time you act, you reduce hesitation. Each time you move forward, you build momentum, and momentum changes everything. At first it feels small, almost insignificant. But over time, it builds, it compounds, it creates results. And those results create belief. Belief in yourself, belief in your ability, belief in your direction. A mentally strong person does not wait for clarity before acting. They act to create clarity. They move forward even when they cannot see the full path, because they trust that each step will reveal the next. If this message is pushing you to stop waiting, if it is encouraging you to take action, subscribe to the channel, because action is the difference between where you are and where you want to be. 6. Your environment is shaping you. Most people believe their thoughts come from within, that their mindset is entirely their own. But this is only part of the truth. Your environment is constantly shaping you, quietly, consistently, without asking for permission. The things you see every day, the conversations you hear, the content you consume, the habits you observe, all of these influence how you think. And over time, how you think becomes how you act, and how you act becomes who you are. This is why environment matters more than most people realize. If your environment is filled with distraction, your mind becomes distracted. If it is filled with negativity, your thinking becomes negative. If it lacks discipline, your habits begin to reflect that. The Stoics understood this. They were intentional about what they allowed into their lives. They protected their attention. They chose their influences carefully, because they knew something important. You cannot build a strong mind in a weak environment. A strong person does not leave this to chance. They observe their surroundings. They notice what is influencing them, and they make changes, not all at once, but gradually. They remove what weakens them. They reduce what distracts them. They replace what does not serve them. And as they do this, something begins to shift. Their thinking becomes clearer, their focus becomes stronger, their actions become more intentional, because their environment is no longer working against them, it is supporting them. This is where real change begins, not just within you, but around you, because your environment either pulls you down or pushes you forward. A mentally strong person builds an environment that supports growth, even when it is difficult, even when it requires change, because they understand that influence is powerful. And when you control your environment, you begin to control your direction. If this message is making you more aware of what surrounds you, if it is pushing you to make changes, subscribe to the channel. Because your environment is shaping your future, whether you notice it or not. 7. Take full responsibility. There is a moment in life that changes everything. A moment when you stop blaming, stop excusing, stop avoiding, and start taking responsibility. Not partial responsibility, not selective responsibility, but full responsibility. This is not easy, because responsibility is heavy. It forces you to face the truth that your current life is the result of your past decisions, your habits, your actions, your mindset. And while that may feel uncomfortable, it is also powerful, because responsibility gives you control. When you blame others, you give away your power. You make yourself dependent on things you cannot control. Other people, external circumstances, unpredictable outcomes. But when you take responsibility, something shifts. You bring the focus back to yourself, to what you can do, to what you can change, to what you can improve. The Stoic teacher Epictetus believed that true freedom comes from focusing only on what is within your control. Your actions, your thoughts, your responses. Everything else is secondary. A strong person lives by this principle. They do not waste energy blaming. They do not stay stuck in regret. They focus on action, on improvement, on growth. Each time something goes wrong, they ask a different question, not why did this happen to me, but what can I do next? This question changes everything, because it creates movement, it creates progress, it creates control. A mentally strong person understands that responsibility is not about guilt. It is about ownership, ownership of your life, ownership of your decisions, ownership of your future. And once you take ownership, you gain power, the power to change, to improve, to rebuild. If this message is challenging you to take responsibility, if it is pushing you to stop blaming and start acting, subscribe to the channel, because responsibility is where real change begins. 8. Consistency over intensity. There is a pattern that keeps many people stuck. They rely on bursts of effort, short moments where they feel motivated, where they go all in, where they push themselves intensely. But those moments do not last. And when they fade, everything stops. This creates a cycle. Start, stop, start again, stop again. And over time, nothing truly changes. The Stoics understood that intensity is not the key. Consistency is. Small actions repeated daily, not perfect actions, not extreme actions, but consistent actions. Because consistency builds habits, and habits build identity. A strong person does not rely on how they feel. They rely on what they do repeatedly, even when the effort feels small, even when the progress is not visible, even when nothing seems to be happening. They continue, because they understand something most people ignore. Progress is not always visible in the moment, but it is always happening beneath the surface. Each small action adds up. Each repeated habit strengthens you. Each day you continue, you build momentum, and momentum changes everything. Over time, those small actions create results. Real results, sustainable results, because they are built on consistency, not temporary effort. A mentally strong person trusts this process. They do not rush it. They do not abandon it. They commit to it. If this message is helping you stay consistent, if it is reminding you that small actions matter, subscribe to the channel, because consistency is what builds the life you want. 9. Discipline in private. There is a version of you that only exists when no one is watching. No pressure, no recognition, no expectations, just you and your choices. This is where real discipline is built, not in public, not when others are observing, but in private. The Stoics believed that character is revealed in these moments, when it would be easy to stop, when it would be easy to take shortcuts, when no one would know if you gave less effort. What do you do in those moments? Do you stay consistent? Do you follow through? Do you act with integrity? These decisions define you, because discipline is not performance. It is identity. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to act with integrity regardless of who was watching. This is where self-respect is built. When your actions align with your values, even in silence, even without recognition, a strong person does not need validation. They do what needs to be done, because it is who they are. Each time you choose discipline in private, you strengthen your identity. You build trust in yourself, and that trust becomes confidence. Real confidence, not based on what others see, but based on what you know about yourself. A mentally strong person understands that these small, unseen moments matter the most, because they shape who you become. If this message is pushing you to stay disciplined even when no one is watching, subscribe to the channel, because real strength is built in silence. 10. Fix your mind, fix your life. Everything comes back to this. Your thoughts shape your actions shape your habits shape your life. If your mind is scattered, your life feels scattered. If your mind is focused, your life becomes focused. The Stoics understood that the mind is the foundation. Everything begins there. The philosopher Seneca believed that a disordered mind creates a disordered life, and a disciplined mind creates a disciplined life. This is the connection. This is the truth. If you want to change your life, you must change your thinking. Not temporarily, not occasionally, but consistently. You must become aware of your thoughts. You must guide them. You must challenge them. And over time, something begins to change. You think differently. You act differently. You respond differently. And those differences create results, real results. Because now, your mind is working for you, not against you. A mentally strong person understands this. They do not ignore their thoughts. They train them, they shape them, they control them, because they know that everything depends on it. If your mind improves, your life improves. If your mind weakens, your life reflects it. This is why everything begins here, with awareness, with discipline, with consistency. If this message is helping you see the connection between your mind and your life, subscribe to the channel. Because fixing your mind is the first step to fixing everything else. Most people are waiting for change, waiting for opportunity, waiting for something to happen. But nothing changes until you do. The Stoics did not wait. They built themselves, day by day, thought by thought, action by action. They understood that life does not respond to wishes. It responds to discipline, to consistency, to alignment. When your thoughts are clear, your actions become intentional. When your actions are intentional, your habits become strong. And when your habits are strong, your life begins to change, not instantly, but gradually, not dramatically, but consistently. This is the path most people avoid, because it requires effort, because it requires discipline, because it requires responsibility, but it is also the path that leads somewhere. If you follow it long enough, you will see results. You will feel stronger, more focused, more in control. And what once felt impossible will begin to feel achievable, not because the world changed, but because you did. If you made it this far, it means you are ready to improve, ready to grow, ready to become stronger. But this is only the beginning. What matters now is action. Take one idea from this video and apply it today, because small actions repeated daily will change your life. If you want more content that builds discipline, focus, and mental strength, subscribe to the channel. Because this is where you build a stronger mind. And when you fix your mind, you fix your life. Everything you want begins there. LLs you can develop. 9. Stay disciplined in the small, unseen moments. There is a version of you that only appears when no one is watching. No expectations, no pressure, no recognition, just you and your choices. This is where real character is revealed. Not in public, not when others are observing, but in private. The Stoics believed that discipline is built in these moments, the quiet ones, the unnoticed ones, the ones that feel insignificant at the time. Do you stay focused when distractions appear? Do you follow through on what you said you would do? Do you act with integrity even when no one will know? These questions define your character, because discipline is not about performance. It is about consistency. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to act with integrity regardless of who was watching. This is the foundation of self-respect. When your actions align with your values, even in private, something powerful happens. You build trust in yourself, and that trust becomes confidence, not confidence based on external validation, but confidence based on internal certainty. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know what you are capable of, and that clarity strengthens you. A strong person does not wait for recognition to act. They act because it aligns with who they are. They remain disciplined even when it is difficult, even when it is inconvenient, even when no one notices, because they understand that small actions create long-term results. Each disciplined choice reinforces identity, each repeated action strengthens character. And over time, those small choices create transformation. If this message is pushing you to stay consistent even in the unseen moments, subscribe to the channel. Because the strongest habits are built when no one is watching. 10. Align your habits with the life you want. Everything in your life is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not what you plan, not what you intend, but what you consistently practice. Your habits define your direction, and your direction defines your future. Many people want change, but their habits remain the same. They think differently for a moment, but they act the same every day. And because of that, nothing changes. The Stoics understood that transformation is built through repetition, through small, consistent actions, not through sudden bursts of effort. If your daily habits do not align with the life you want, your results will not align either. This is where true change begins, not in big decisions, but in small ones. The decision to stay focused, the decision to act, the decision to remain disciplined. Each day presents an opportunity to move closer to your goals, or to remain where you are. A strong person uses each day intentionally. They do not wait for change. They create it through their habits, through their actions, through their discipline. Over time, these habits compound. They build momentum, they create results, and eventually they shape identity. You become what you repeatedly do. If you act with discipline, you become disciplined. If you act with focus, you become focused. If you act with intention, you become intentional. And once your identity changes, everything else follows. If this message is helping you rethink your daily choices, subscribe to the channel. Because your habits are shaping your future right now. Everything you want requires alignment. When your mind is clear, your actions become powerful. When your actions are consistent, results follow. The Stoics understood this deeply. Life reflects who you are. So if you want your life to change, you must change. If this video helped you think differently and you want more content that builds a strong, disciplined and focused mind, subscribe to the channel, because this is where you become the person capable of the life you want. And remember, when you fix your mind, everything else begins to follow.